Hello there, welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff happening in the VTuber world, and today we talk about Sinder's response to all the controversy. That's right, Sinder has issued an apology to all the VTubers that she has wronged, and this is her Google Doc. And immediately we already have people saying, dude, fuck off, by BuffHub. I'm just gonna start off by saying a lot of VTubers, basically majority of VTubers, just do not like Sinder's apology, and many of them have been openly calling her out in the comment section, which we'll go take a look at in another video, simply because this is just too large of a video at this point. Take a look at this, 10.6 million views on one Google Doc alone. That's most of the VTuber community right here. Let's take a look. The apology. There's nothing I can say to make this better, but I will try my best to properly convey my feelings, frustrations, and mistakes. Sinder continues, I'd like to explain my point of view and apologize to each party affected. Redacted has been my co-content creator since I began making content, managing all aspects of what I do, and being a major part of why I'm here. We have also been in a relationship since the start of my endeavors. It's no secret that many VTubers choose to keep their public and personal lives private, and I'm no different. As of yesterday, he is no longer working with me, and I have not extensively discussed any of this with him. Where our personal situation goes from here will be figured out between us privately. I never intended to mention us publicly, but given that the claims are out there, I want everyone to know that I'm taking this seriously. After years of working on everything together, his hyper-business-oriented outlook warped my view of what it is I should be doing, and what should be important to me as I navigate this career path. Sinder continues, I have a terrible work-life balance as it is, and being around projects and streams all day every day made me lose sight of the point. It took all of this happening for me to realize that this behavior isn't normal or healthy, and it's not an outlook that I want to have. This doesn't absolve me of the things I've willingly done wrong and went along with, or the way I treated people who are fully undeserving. In regards to nanoless, who is this VTuber right here, for the majority of the time working with her, Red was the one almost solely doing the communication about the new plans and negotiations through his private DMs. Okay, this doesn't look good. With this one sentence alone, you can feel like Sinder is trying to pass the buck, like she's trying to blame her boyfriend for everything. This is not looking good. This is not looking good. But anyway, Nano had a project server that we were all a part of where the actual art and models were worked on, but the conversations were focused around the work itself. I was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission decisions, and I should have been more diligent in my oversight. Every time I'd been told that Nano had agreed to work on a new commission with me, it had been willingly and with excitement. From my point of view, it was that she genuinely wanted to be working on these things, and I wanted to work with Nano as much as I possibly could, making her art the face of my brand. We had come to the conclusion that it would be in my best interest to talk with Nano about making more time for my projects by negotiating with her to cut out the other work. This was wrong of us to push onto her, and it was wrong to the other creators who wanted the chance of working with her. There was only one specific creator we were responsible for naming and pressuring Nano into reconsidering projects with, not an entire list. Okay, so this is bad. This is pretty bad. Not only is she admitting that she knew about, trying to get Nano to stop working for other VTubers, he's trying to downplay the situation by saying, oh, it's not an entire list, it's just one person, when in the Discord screenshots, we saw that she tried to block access to 3 different VTubers, basically Bow the Whale, Cottontail VA, and Silvervale, who released her own Google Doc about the situation, which we will cover later on in a different video. So this looks bad. It looks like she's downplaying. Immediately I can see why so many people dumbed down the Google Doc. It was because she's trying to downplay the situation. Bad. Of her own volition, Nano cancelled a large portion of her model commission last September. However, the claim that I was just going to be using her is wrong. I've always treated Nano with respect and as my friend. I did give her a lot of work, and we did everything we could do to accommodate her schedule if she needed more time or breaks, and we even helped her with her own project payments multiple times. I've invited her on my stream, I've sent her my merch and things she's made for me, and I always was open to talking to her about things outside of our projects. In the instances we would message each other regarding the exclusivity deal made between them, I had no part in the direct negotiations of their eventual agreement, and I had no knowledge of Bow and Cotton. Hold on, have a look, guys. I had no knowledge of Bow and Cotton being included in this list. How about silvervale? If I had known my friends were included, I would have said something to put a stop to it. I was only aware of it being about one person, who I was unfairly pursuing. When Nano had messaged me about this disagreement almost a month later, I was under the assumption this was only about Silvervale. That is, boys. He thought it was only about Silvervale, and that made it okay to, stop access to this VTuber. Oh my god. Screenshots were real. He was trying to block access from Bao, Cottontail, and Silvervale. Hey. He's self-reporting and making the entire situation worse. Sinder continues to say, I was upset, and my initial messages to her were very guilt-trippy. But I wasn't going to force Nano to do anything she wasn't okay with, and tried reassuring her that I was okay with her decision. Nano had also never come to me as seriously and professionally as her document was looking to address the issues he had with either of us to terminate our partnership. I had no idea there was even a conversation about Shylily recently between Red and Nano until reading her document. Okay, then that's fine. But this comes off as, if you say you had no idea about the conversation between Shylily and Red, where he just downright insults her by telling Nano how weird she was after the V-Card collab on stream and not responding to messages later on, it just comes off as scummy because you're trying to evade responsibility. But it's going to be difficult to address this regardless of what she says. So move on. Sinder says, I had no idea there was even a conversation about Shylily recently between Red and Nano until reading a document. It's true that I had confided in Red that recently I hadn't been hearing from Lily like I had in the past and was worried that something was wrong. But that's as far as it went, and he took it upon himself to try to start digging for more info. And I was never even aware Nano was ever planning to work on a model for another one of my friends, Giri. Wait, Giri? You mean Onigiri? Oh, this is messed up. So Onigiri was also involved. I recall reading something in the document, but I can't remember. Moving on, Sinder would say, I do not condone anything about what Red said about Bao in these DMs either, and him using we and our in this context is abhorrently incorrect, and I believe it was done to gain greater credibility behind what he was saying, yes. Red and I were initially upset when Bao hired my editor, and I took it personally when I shouldn't have. I felt that it was as if maybe my content wasn't good enough or I wasn't paying enough for his work, but I accepted it and was happy for him for getting that bag and supporting one of my friends at the same time. And yes, I was also upset when Zach, the Boss Rush music video editor, had told us that he won't be working on any future projects with us and would instead be working exclusively for Bao. But Red got it in his head that it was Bao's fault that it happened and seemingly held a grudge against her for it. He was very passionate about Boss Rush and the potential future projects around it, but he told me without a music video editor as talented as Zach, the future projects wouldn't reach the same heights. So he created this headcanon that's laid out in those DMs. Sinder continues, I wasn't convinced that this was the case, but it's my fault for never speaking with Bao about these things directly to clear things up and letting it spiral to the point it got to. Every comment here about her music, the guilt tripping, and claims about our shared feelings towards her are disgusting. And I honestly don't know why he thought this way about my close friend beyond the resentment over those two things, or why it was worth sabotaging her over. Okay, Sinder continues, the It's Just Business screenshot of my DMs with Nano's document was from November of 2023, and I'll go into my thought process of everything I said here. What Red was trying to explain to Nano is that if everyone has a model by her, then the innate value of her models overall are diminished by there being an oversaturation of that type of model out there. If everyone in the world had a VTuber model done by her, then the value of having her model wouldn't be the same as if there were only a handful of them, which he viewed as a negative for me. Okay, now she's addressing, what Sinder is doing, she's addressing the controversy that made nanoless want to put out a Google Doc. Because remember, nanoless was actually angry when Redacted said if nanoless made more models for more VTubers, her art would be less valuable. And because artists are prideful, and because nanoless, this girl right here, was so angry about it, she actually confronted Sinder. And we got to see the DMs in her Google Doc, in Nanoless's Google Doc, that started this entire situation, right? And this was one of the main focuses that Nanoless was very angry with. He didn't like that someone was insulting her art, okay? And I'm gonna say something very cruel to Sinder, and it's that no matter what Sinder says about this situation, Nanoless will probably never forgive Sinder. I know that's assuming a lot of things, but if she's gonna confront Sinder in the Discord DMs and then put a Google Doc out about it, and even after this, he's not satisfied with the conclusion, and you can see here, Sinder is saying that she understands where her boyfriend was coming from. There's no way nanoless is going to be happy about this, okay? He'll consider this a non-apology. So her relationship with nanoless is still broken. Sinder trying to fix the situation by saying she understands where her boyfriend was coming from when she said the models would be less valuable if nanoless continued to make more VTuber models. Okay, this is very bad. This is very, very bad. Anyway, Sinder says, I understand where he was coming from with this, but in the VTuber space, this isn't something we should have pursued. Nano has an amazing skill where she's able to draw each of her VTuber children uniquely. So I was never upset seeing the new model siblings. In many cases, I was there cheering them on at their debuts, and looking to collab with them as sisters when I could. Me saying that it's just business was referring to my acceptance of Nano's business decisions. Whether she chose to work with me or not, this was not in reference to anyone's model being cancelled. Further explaining it to her that it's okay if she chooses not to work with me, Sinder continues. I can understand where the next part can sound manipulative, but my intention was to reminisce about the journey we had together up to this point, since at this time, I wasn't sure if this was where Nano and I would stop working together as frequently as we had been, and I'd have to look for a new model artist. Okay. And Sinder would say, I then encouraged her to work on projects she's excited about, while I talked with Red to find a project that would work with her schedule. Okay. This part here looks a bit risky. You're gonna directly say you're gonna sound manipulative and say something similar to a sob story, when people are going to see it as manipulative. Doesn't matter what the intentions are there. This shouldn't even be here, you know. Anyway, moving on. Sinder continues the story of apology. When talking about Silvervale, I need to start at the beginning. By the way, guys, this is Silvervale. She used to be a VTuber at VShoujo and then she left. You might remember her as a VTuber that said, are we still friends if someone doesn't contact me for 6 months? Very explosive statement. People thought VShoujo was about to implode back then, but no, it survived. Many people also thought that Silvervale had burned bridges, but she's still alive. She still has friends, and she's one of the people mentioned in nanoless's document, and Sinder's manager, I guess, was trying to block access to nanoless, and he was trying to block Silvervale, Bow, and Cottontail from accessing nanoless. This is her right here. This is her. Now, Sinder continues her story. Before I was Sinder, I was a pink cherry blossom girl called Taishi that did ASMR content. When the VTuber boom happened in 2020, I knew that I wanted to join in. Red and I contacted an artist in October and they were set to start my VTuber design by December. The plan was to take my cherry blossom persona, Aishi, and make her a pink and white wolf girl VTuber. In November of that same year, Silvervale revealed her Sakura Wolf redesign. I had heard of Silvervale earlier that year, but I didn't watch her streams at all. We knew we had to pivot before we were stuck with a design that would just be a copy of one of the most popular VTubers at the time. Like I've explained many times on my stream, I knew I wanted to be a wolf girl, so I mixed my lore of Okami and metal music into the design and came out with a hellhound. My name was originally going to be Ember, but Red came up with the name Sinder since it was a mix of Sin and Cinder, both hell and fire themed. It was only a coincidence that it ended up being similar to Silver. I was genuinely interested in pursuing a friendship with her and drew fan out of myself of us together. On the other hand, Red was in my ear the whole time saying how great working together would be since again, it's been the business-oriented side of my brand. Oof. The fact that, Sinder is saying that she was trying to pursue a friendship, when Silvervale over here just put out a Google document saying we weren't friends, and the word disgusting was in that Google doc. It looks really bad, you know? It looks pretty bad for Sinder. He wants a friendship with Silvervale, but Silvervale has already put out a Google doc saying we weren't friends. Oh no. Anyway, since I started streaming, I've been ruthlessly compared to Silvervale, being called the discount version of her. I was accused of copying her design, copying her personality, and even copying her laugh of all things. And there was a large number of people who were diehard believers in the fact that I stole all of these attributes maliciously for my own gain, citing the art I posted of us together calling her an inspiration, when in reality this was just referring to the decision to become a hellhound. The only time Silvervale was mentioned in the original designing of my character was when we explained why we were pivoting to something else, and there were no references of her character involved. I grew more and more resentful of Sinder over time. Wait, is this a confession? I grew more and more resentful of Silver over time. Oh my god, the beef is real! The beef is real! Oh my god, they'll never be friends again. Then again, they were never friends. Oh my god. Sinder, why are you self-reporting? Oh no. Sinder would continue. Between the constant belittling of myself, a controversy around my first wife hookup and other incidents, even though she herself never interacted with me directly, and it was also that fact that made me insecure, like I wanted to know if she believed all of these things or not. It really felt as if she didn't like that I even existed in the same space. So at the point I was working with Nano consistently, we brought out not making any more models for her. If a VTuber model is how everyone recognizes you, then it would be harder to compare us directly if we no longer look alike or have that shared similarity. It was a wrong and selfish decision, but it made me feel better. That's why it was a constant topic. With Nano, Red pushed for this harder than I ever did because he knew how it affected me for years. But no matter what the outcome was, I wasn't going to walk away from working with Nano. Silver was completely undeserving of this treatment, and it was my own insecurities that led me to making this choice. I became unapologetically evil towards her due to no direct action of her own. There is no excuse for any of this. There goes the friendship. They were never friends. Moving on from Silvervale, Sinder would say, let me talk about Spite. Okay, before Sinder says anything else about Spite, let me just confirm who she is. You guys know how after nanoless released a Google Doc, a lot of other people started releasing Google Docs about their own experiences with Sinder, as well as speculations and assumptions? Well, Spite, this blue fox VTuber right here, I guess she's a wolf or something, or Spite, this blue VTuber right here, she also made a Google Doc, and she accused Silvervale of copying her design. I've not covered this situation yet, but I will in the future, I promise. But that's all you need to know. Spite believes she is the one who Sinder or Sinder's manager insulted in the Discord screenshots. Okay? Now let's continue. So, Sinder was accused of copying this VTuber's designs. What does she have to say about it? Well, Sinder would say, once again, I had no involvement or knowledge of Red bringing out Spite to Nano in 2023. My only personal involvement with excluding someone specific from working with Nano was Silver. My design sheet and outfit were finished and made public at the very start of 2021. The first thing she mentions is a debut teaser in 2022, and that was apparently posted the same day as her original debut, which I honestly don't know if at the time this was intentional or not. I don't know when I first discovered Spite, and it could have been after she debuted. When I first debuted, I was very possessive of my design details. I had made it a year and a half since my design sheet was finished and public to having a full VTuber debut as I watched everything grow and change from the sidelines. And I didn't want anyone else to capitalize on my concept before I could. Soon after my original debut, I remember Spite getting an update to her model that made it seem like she more closely resembled me, including fire added to her model without evidence. I saw it and thought she must have copied me, but I never did anything about it other than voice my frustrations to Red. I didn't want to start drama with anyone, and I didn't have the ownership over fire as a design detail. The references for the ripped shirt and shorts outfit on my bikini model was given to Nano in June of 2022. The purpose of having a cover-up outfit that would be safe for Twitch. The merch art she's referring to was designed around my concept of fire changing blue. The fact that the rest of the art was grayscale was the artist's choice since it was going onto the back of a hoodie, and I didn't have a say, or at least I didn't counter that being the final decision. There was no intention to deliberately look like Spite with this piece. Unfortunately, both my Angel and Sleepy outfits being similar to outfits Spite has done in the past was just a coincidence. I had always planned on one day making an Angel counterpart to my Demon outfit when it was being made in 2023, and my original ref sheet laid the groundwork for that idea. I've never liked theming anything around my brand in a religious light, so I chose to make my Angel from more Greek Valkyrie than biblical, which also gives it a similar look to my demon form. The Sleepy outfit was a last-minute decision to pivot from a fully new 3.0 model because I had the opportunity to work with gamer subs on an AFK flavor. Spite never should have received the hate comments over her outfit or any comments comparing us or belittling her because of my existence. And I've never advocated for anyone to do so, especially given my experience. Spite also brought up another creator who reached out to her about their experience with me, and I can only assume it's Nyan Tales, and I think Sinder is referring to this VTuber right here, your local goth half succubus dommy mommy, not really my type. Her name is Nyan Tails ASMR. You can remember her for the video you saw in Rev Says Desu, where he defends her in his drama video. Anyway, Sinder is speaking, saying, I can only assume it's Nyan Tails. They are an ASMR artist who at one point posted a Hellhound OC for one of their upcoming ASMR videos, and it was undoubtedly created using me as a reference. This was right after my debut, and like I said, I was very protective of my design elements being unique to me, and I overreacted. Shortly after, I apologized and they agreed to adjust the character design, and I thought the matter was settled. At the very start of my online career, I was a GFE ASMR artist. Before I started my channel, I had gotten into listening into roleplay audios myself. I had always been a shut-in throughout high school and college, and I wasn't happy with where my life and relationships were at the time. After uploading my first few audios, my channel started growing fast. This was the first time I was inundated with so many people wanting to know me and talk to me, and I got lost in the excitement of it all. Not fully coming to terms with these messages being because the kind of content I was making, I was immature and inexperienced with how to conduct myself online. I've never had many IRL friends and had met Rain doing ASMR. I quickly became comfortable chatting with him about everything, divulging my grievances about my personal life when I shouldn't have. Okay, she's addressing Rain, and Rain is basically this person right here. This is Rain. He used to be a friend of Sinder's, and after Sinder became controversial, after nanoless released a Google Doc, there was a flood of Google Docs coming out exposing Sinder, and Rain also put out his own Google Doc explaining his relationship with Sinder, and so now Sinder has to address it. Sinder would say, I cheated on my boyfriend with Rain in these conversations, flirting and sexting. I used Rain for emotional comfort and sexual fantasy while I let my real-life relationship collapse. It was about my dissatisfaction with my personal life and escaping into messages with someone else, who I found through content focused around girlfriend and boyfriend roleplay. It was never about climbing the ladder with Rain, and I find that being his takeaway from why I moved on baffling. By the time I was ready to debut as Sinder, I wanted to leave that in the past. Still to this day, I regret my decisions and have been living with it since. And I was lucky to be able to mend my relationship after this. So in this situation, Sinder is straight up just admitting that she did use Peaches for her own love or for her own sexual needs because of the girlfriend and boyfriend roleplay, which I guess she's not trying to hide anything and she's just trying to address it. So now it's up to Rain. It actually is up to Rain whether or not he is willing to forgive her. Now, before we continue with the Sinder Google Doc, we need to take a look at Van Peaches because Sinder is going to talk about Van Peaches in a while. Van Peaches is basically the person who, after Sinder put out this apology in response to nanoless's Google Doc, where she and her manager said a few things that were less than satisfactory, Van Peaches would come out and say that her manager was actually a boyfriend. That's it. And Van Peaches is also a little salty with Sinder because Sinder kind of stopped being friends with Van Peaches for a while. And Sinder is going to address that. And lastly, I want to address Peaches. This is a very big problem I have, and I'm sure many others in my position do too. At the end of the day, I'm one person. I'm one person working on multiple projects, multiple companies, talking to dozens of people, and streaming for hours almost every day. I've never had a big social battery, and I get tired very, very easily when interacting with people. I haven't had much energy at all over the past year, leading to me taking frequent naps. I've rarely been able to keep up with my closest handful of friends on a frequent basis, let alone everyone else. Red has always been a big help in keeping up with things, but he doesn't do everything. I'm so sorry I made you feel forgotten, Peaches. I've always cherished your friendship, and I was so incredibly excited to meet you in Paris. I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me, and I've never thought to purposefully drop you just because I could. I'm sorry. I know I've made a lot of people feel forgotten or ignored. It's so easy to get caught up in projects or what I'm doing while I have the energy to do it, that people fall by the wayside. I understand the feelings of those who resent me over this, and all I can say is, I'm sorry. And now, we reach the actual apologies. Now, Sinder is saying, I don't deserve to be able to contact everyone involved directly to personally apologize, so I'll do it here in the chance that they read it. Okay, I think this is a bad move. I think she should have tried contacting, even if she didn't, really have a chance of, speaking to them anymore after the entire controversy. But anyway, this is Sinder apologizing to everyone. First off, to Nano. and nanoless is basically the artist who put out the Google Doc that kickstarted this entire controversy, to Nano. I'm so sorry I let things get to this point or even entertain the thought of you working exclusively with me. That's not fair to you. I wouldn't be here without you, and I wouldn't have been able to do most of what I've already done without you. I felt overly attached to our relationship for the past 4 years, and I loved your work so much that I wanted to make myself exclusive to your art, and I should have never sought those feelings to be reciprocated. Everything you've ever worked on for me was always so perfect, and I lost sight of how everyone else around me would have felt. I had no intentions of pressuring you into anything, but looking back on my clouded judgment, I can see how my messages felt that way. When I talked about how my models helped you improve, I meant that as looking back on how far we've come together. We've been friends for so long and cheered each other on when we both started growing and getting more opportunities like plushies, figures, etc. You had been my exclusive artist for full live 2D models for the majority of my time as a VTuber. And of course, I would have been sad if you didn't want to continue that relationship. But in all our other private DMs, I was okay with you ultimately doing what was best for yourself. I saw you as someone I trusted and loved and wanted to make sure you were still taking care of yourself. With all the projects you took on, mine or otherwise, I never saw you as just a business partner. I thought I was reassuring you that I'd always be understanding if you wanted to move on to other projects. I genuinely appreciated our friendship. I always saw you as a close friend, and I'm sorry for what I put you through. That was very, very, very heartfelt. You can feel that she is sincere, and she has made many mistakes as well. Let's move on to someone else called Bao the Whale. That's right, this is someone who Sinder's manager was trying to block. That's right, no nanoless art for Bao the Whale. No more art. This is Sinder's apology to Bao the Whale. To Bao, since the start I've always admired you and how genuine you've always been to everyone. I wouldn't be here without you either. I'm disgusted with myself for buying into the narrative that my friends were competition. I've never had such genuine friendships in my life, especially with you. We've gotten to know each other so well online and in person. You've already been through so much, and the last thing I'd want to do is cause more harm. But I did. I'm sorry for not reaching out sooner about these ideas that were put into my head. I wish we would have been able to talk about this too. I didn't know about the severity of things that had been said and theorized about my friends behind my back until now. It's my fault for not realizing the things Red was saying about you. The countless friendships I've made here within the last several years mean so much more to me than him and the business side of things and his way of thinking. No amount of popularity or money means more to me than the relationships I've built in this community. I've always been myself, whether that be on stream or in person, and I hope the friends I've made can understand I'd never condone this behavior or any of the things that were said about my friends. I've always wanted everyone around me to thrive and find happiness. I can't stress enough how disappointed I am that I didn't see this sooner, until it got to a breaking point. And Sinder would say, I'm sorry, Bao. Sack, this is the video editor who voluntarily wanted an exclusivity deal with Bao the Whale. And he got it because he didn't want to be known as that guy who made stuff for VTubers. He wanted to be known as someone who made videos of his own, and he wanted to be known as a content creator. Sack is also the person that both Sinder and her manager assumed had been stolen by Bao the Whale. And Sinder would apologize to Sack. To Sack, I loved getting to chat with you in person and absolutely loved all the hard work you put into Boss Rush song. I was so grateful to hear that you were on board to edit the music video. I don't remember exactly why the stream got pushed back, but I definitely wouldn't have put the blame on you knowing about how soon the deadline was when you started working on it. I was so thankful for your willingness to complete the project despite everything. The quality of how it turned out was incredible. I can't believe how Red talked about you, especially after all the effort you put in for me. I'm so sorry for everything that's happened. And now Sinder is going to apologize to Cottontail as well as Shylily. The reason Shylily is involved in all this was because Sinder's manager trash-talked her in Discord DMs with nanoless, saying she was weird for ghosting. The reason why Sinder is apologizing to Cottontail VA is because her manager tried to ban Cottontail VA from ever working with nanoless again. And so this is Sinder's apology. Cotton and Lily, I'm so sorry you had to get dragged into this. It's my fault I let it get this far. But I hope you can believe me when I say I had no knowledge of Red bringing you up in Nano's DMs. I just learned about all this myself, and there could have been so many other friends affected by the narrative that things always had to be competitive. I knew Red was trying to exclude specific friends. If I knew Red was trying to exclude specific friends in this exclusivity deal, I would have spoken up. None of my friendships are worth sacrificing over an art piece. I loved being your friend and all the memories we've shared, and I hope someday you can forgive me for allowing this to happen. And now there is an apology from Sinder to Silvervale. Let's take a look. To Silver, since the start, I loved that I saw someone else sharing so many similar interests to me, and I thought maybe someday you could talk about it all and be good friends. I was blinded by all these hate comments around me, calling me your lesser half. I hate the person I've become towards you. I tried reaching out some time ago to try to start up a friendly conversation to change things and make things right. Say hi to you at conversations, at conventions, and support your endeavors. But despite all of that, I was still being eaten alive by my own doubts and fears or harassment. I was pressured by the community as a whole to try reaching out to collaborate since I got these messages so often comparing us, and I had hoped that we could work something out. The photo of me at the meet and greet was taken candidly, and I thought it looked so cute, and I posted it without asking you, which was wrong of me. I was so wrong for letting everyone get in my head about all these malicious feelings. I'm so sorry for any opportunities I've taken away from you. I'm sorry, Silver. And now we have a short apology to Spite. I'm sorry I had assumed things about your design that weren't true. And I'm sorry you've been harassed by commenters needing to compare us. And I apologize for the way Red spoke about you to Nano. You didn't deserve any of this, Spite. I'm sorry. And now we take a look at Van Peaches, and this is the girl who told everyone that Cinder's manager was a boyfriend. There were also friendship issues, which Cinder explained. To Peaches, I'm sorry if I made it seem like I was ignoring you or ghosting you. I was so happy we had the opportunity to meet in person, and I was apologetic with how busy things were for me at the time. I wanted to spend more time with you, but as I got more and more DMs and messages, everything became so overwhelming. I've always had a low social battery, and that made it so hard for me to keep up to date with all my friends. I've never had any ill feelings towards you, and I still don't. To Rain, you're the first person I met as an ASMR artist. During a time when I was immature and vulnerable, I ended up being consumed by the content I was making, and it led me to making awful decisions I still think about and regret. I was not in a good spot at the time. I've hated myself for this kind of behavior, and it took a long time for me to move on from what happened. I have no excuses. I'm sorry you were dragged into my drama, and I'm sorry how I made you feel after. I just wanted to close the book on things. And finally, Cinder issues an apology to her fans, the Pyro Pups. Cinder apologizes to her Pyro Pups, basically a fan base. Cinder would say, I'm sorry to my Pyro Pups and my mods for expecting me to lead by a better example in this. I'm sorry to the VTuber community for looking towards me as someone to aspire to. I'm sorry to Kaiser, who put out his heart and soul into everything he's ever done for me, and not even talking to you about how I felt. I'm sorry to the dozens of artists that have put their hard work into me. And I'm sorry for the rest of my friends who I've let down. I've led a bad example, and I don't expect forgiveness. I've made many mistakes over my 5 years on the internet. I'm only one person, living one life I get for the first and only time like everyone else. As I said at the start, I ended up developing an extremely unhealthy work-life balance, and the harm Red has caused with the way he viewed things is irreparable. With the way Red viewed things? Okay, this is something not everyone is going to be happy with. It's going to look like she's trying to throw him under the bus just to save herself. Okay, she's going to need to do more now. Anyway, Cinder continues, the way I've been perceiving things lately is not how I want to view the world moving forward. And this goes to show there's a lot I need to address and improve if I'm to continue being a creator. I'm devastated that the friendships so special to me may understandably never be mended again. I love my job, and I love all the friends I've had. Thank you for reading. Signed, Cinder. And that is the end of the Google Doc. So what do you guys think? Would you be willing to forgive her for not being a good friend? Probably not after seeing all the responses, but that's going to be another video. Anyway, thank you for coming, thank you for watching. This is Terry Nebula, signing out.